Global presents the DG Recruit podcast on everything headhunting and recruitment. Achieve the life and career you envision. What's up, game changers? It's your host, Don, founder of doesnt Global, the headhunting and career coaching company helping you achieve the life and career you envision. In today's DG Recruit episode, I'm going to cover why headhunting is the new it career of our generation. My generation is the millennial generation. We were born in the 80s and the late 80s and the early 90s. And a lot of what we see now as a career are people talking about iBanking in the past. Certainly when I graduated, iBanking was the thing. And now it is tech stuff. So developing, web developer, engineering, yada, yada, yada. Those are the jobs that have quote unquote high salaries and great benefits and awesome perks and yada, yada, yada. In addition to that, another it career for me growing up was always lawyer and doctor. Being a Chinese American immigrant, my family most definitely pushed doctor and lawyer on me for like the first 20 years of my life. And when they realized that none of that was going to happen, they finally gave up and said, we don't know what she could do for a living. I guess she's going to starve. So that's basically what happened to me. But when I graduated college, that was around 2009, iBanking was the thing. Everybody wanted to work for Goldman Sachs. Now, how many of us actually knew what iBanking was? Not a lot of us. I went to a small private business school called Babson. I don't know if they really taught us how to be iBankers. I still to this day don't really understand what iBankers do and how to become one. And I went to a business school and I studied finance. So it's crazy how people are coming out of college with sort of this idea of what they want to do and absolutely zero way to get there. And that's what's happening now with the web development space. You're seeing a lot of times people being like, oh, you can be an engineer for Google if you take this web boot camp. I'm like, I just don't see how that's possible, because if everyone can do that, why are people going to college still for computer science? Still going to Ivy League schools for computer science education, right? It doesn't make sense. So I think a lot of times consumers are victims, as usual, because in order to become an XYZer, they tend to pay for the services that quote unquote should get me there. And that's exactly what happened with MBAs back in the day too. They cost a lot of money and a lot of people are not seeing the results from that money. So really the issue is, what it comes down to is a lack of knowledge. It's true ignorance about kind of how to become successful at life, how to become successful at careers. People forget the main point of jobs is to make money. So if you have to spend a bunch of money to get a quote unquote potential job, that's not a very good return on investment. In fact, it's not secure at all. So my advice always is, I think people right out of college need to just start making money. And that's kind of what I did. And that's how I fell into headhunting. And becoming a headhunter, these are the things I noticed about why headhunting is one of the best jobs in the world. Obviously, I succeeded at it, but let's assume you will succeed at whatever you do. Let's assume that you're a hard worker, that you're ambitious, that you will do what it takes, that you will work overtime, that you seriously want to succeed in life. You can succeed in anything with that kind of mentality. We all know that. So let's assume your mentality is right and you have the basic capability of doing the job. Let's just talk about why this market, the market dynamics of headhunting, are so attractive for people, especially within our newer generation. Well, number one is that the field of headhunting is expanding at an unprecedented rate. And this comes down to society changes. What has happened in the last 20 years? The internet has taken hold. And what has the internet allowed people to do? The internet has allowed people to switch jobs as fast as they want to. You see people who not only switch jobs, but now fully function as contractors. They make a living off of being a temp staff. That was not possible in the past, where you had no access to employers due to the lack of information. Now we live in the information age, where you can snap your fingers and you literally have thousands of clients that you can pitch your services to. So what has happened is the internet has revolutionized careers and job search in a way, in the sense that now we know there are options. Number two, society does not penalize us for switching jobs anymore. Unlike in the 1950s where you were expected to work for, the Detroit company that makes cars, Ford, for like 50 years until you get a pension, that's changed now. Companies are not providing pensions. Retirement is sort of you're all by yourself, boo. You take care of yourself. So with that kind of mentality, the loyalty has been totally lost by the wayside. So loyalty doesn't exist anymore. It's acceptable by society to switch jobs as often as you darn well feel like. So what happens is there's these major retention issues at the companies. And number 3, HR can't staff up quick enough. They don't know how to handle this constant daily deluge of needs. Every hiring manager is calling them, what's going on? Where are my candidates? What's happening? They don't have the resources. They don't have the time. They don't have the money to spend all their budget on recruiting internally. So what happens is that they need to hire outside agencies, external headhunting companies, to help them headhunt and take care of those hard to fill jobs. Another great market opportunity for headhunters, right? We always love it when HR can't fill the jobs and they need us to do it. Number 4, people are less apt to take a job that stinks and stick at it. So what happens is if they're unhappy, they'll just leave. Because in our generation, we don't put up with annoying, awful, egotistical maniacs. We don't put up with that. In fact, we call them out. We shame them on social media and they get kicked out. So if you look at Travis Kalanick, the guy from Uber, he was just like Steve Jobs. How does Steve Jobs get away with it? Well, he lived in a different era. He lived in an era where there was a lot of privacy, where you couldn't just go around telling everyone everything you know. But nowadays with social media, all it takes is one video of you ranting and you lost it. You've done and lost it, right? People are not appreciating that. And that will get you called out and shamed. And bye-bye Steve Jobs, right? That would have happened if Steve Jobs lived in 2015. But he lived in a different era in the 1990s before the internet was the thing. So the corporate veil was still very much on. But now that corporate veil has been lifted aside and we can go through and pierce the corporation. Although that's a tax term, that's really what I see happening now in terms of a social standpoint. We just go ahead and pierce right to the heart of the organization because we have access to all the materials and all the information that we need on any given company. So your dirty laundry cannot be hidden. Who you are is who you are. And that's going to come out even strongly than ever. And that is why headhunters are able to get people all the time. When we hear something bad is happening at a firm, we go in there, we take everyone and we put them somewhere else because people are willing to move if they're not happy. And if you don't treat them well in these days, it's tough to be an employer too. If you're not the best that you can be, forget about it. You're not going to hold on to your employees. They're going to leave you. And that's again where headhunters come and profit because we make money every time that happens. Imagine all the retention issues that happen. Headhunters are making more money than ever. And we're doing the job easier than ever because we have access to everybody on LinkedIn. And we also have access to everyone on any other social media platform. There's so many ways that we can recruit now. So for those who are ambitious and who want to get ahead in their life, headhunting is a fantastic career choice because you can start making good money early. So number 5, let's talk about money. How much does a junior technical staff earn? The most that a junior technical staff can earn after years of education, I'm talking PhD and masters, those people are probably starting out around 90, maybe 110. I was making that when I was 24 years old. They're making that when they're 30. You can't measure the difference those 6 years make because those 6 years mean rise and fall of empires. It's half a decade of education. That's how long people are spending in education. That's crazy to me. 4 years was too much for me. A bachelor's degree, 4 years was too much. I didn't learn anything of use, honestly. I'm doing headhunting now. It's all sales. It has nothing to do with what I learned in school. Schooling is part of my life. Schooling is part of who I am, and I appreciated it for the time and the experiences it taught me. But could I have done without it? Sure, I could have. Could I have learned a lot more going right into the workforce of doing sales? Sure, I could have. But what was the thing that made me get a degree? It was fear.
It was fear of not being able to get a 9 to 5. But really what happened when I started getting into 9 to 5s, I realized how much I hated it. I was like, oh my God, this is not what I want to do for a living. I don't want to pump Excel sheets all day. I don't want to like look at numbers all day. And that's me. That's unique to me. But my podcast is really for those who are more similar to me in the sense that they don't like sitting in an office somewhere cooped up and just typing in spreadsheets and working with inanimate objects, right? If you like dealing with people, if you like getting out there, if you're ambitious, why don't you consider headhunting? Seriously. Like a lot of people want to consider like iBanking or these really tough, competitive, really challenging roles. And I realized early I couldn't do that. Like I can't be going to a bottom left quadrant where I have to bust my butt. For all those tuning in, go look at Daily Dawn, my podcast, my other podcast on career advice. Look at the Daily Dawn podcast 4S's Matrix. Bottom left is called salary jobs. And that's what a lot of people are gunning for. Oh my God, they can't wait to get that guaranteed salary. But don't forget the flip side of having a salary job. You're capped. You're capped at your salary. So that again limits your growth. Right? When I was young, I was like, oh my God, I really need a salary job. But at the older I got, I thought, wait, I can create my own destiny. I can make a lot more sales doing this myself and relying on myself. Why do I need to rely on a company to pay me? I can pay myself by being good at this job. And that's what I love about headhunting, because year 2, I was already making around $130,000. I was 24 years old. So what other job can you really do that? And it wasn't just me. A lot of people around me are making the same amount, and they're all in their early 20s. And it just boggles my mind that no one knows about this. No one knows about headhunting. It's just something that our schools, our teachers, our parents, everyone tells us not to do sales. So sales jobs are looked down upon, are demeaned, are belittled, and you yourself feel ashamed. But I don't feel ashamed. I loved it. Headhunting was my savior. Without headhunting, I wouldn't have been retired young. I wouldn't have been rich. I wouldn't have had any capital. I would have had to do the eke a living kind of thing. You know, I was so lucky that headhunting fell into my lap and I fell into the career. And by the time I was 25, I was making over $215,000. You know, that's crazy. And again, it's not uncommon. And you can sustain this for God knows how long. And to be honest, when you're making that kind of money that young, if you play your cards right, like I did, you don't need to work that long. You don't have to, because you just parlay it all into investing. Then you get passive income. You can retire by the time you're 30. Headhunting is the only career that I know of that can generate high levels of income very young into your life with no regulatory control. That's crazy, right? There's no regulatory control. So I think overall, today's topic, I kind of went all over the place, but really I talked about why headhunting is growing, you know, what's causing headhunting to be a growing career, and also why it's really suitable for people in future generations and also people who are looking to make transitions in their career. And this career, like all careers, it's better when you start as early as possible. If you feel that you're ready for this change, or you feel that you are interested, start sending me a resume, get in touch with me, donat@dgrecruit.com, and also tweet at me, send me a LinkedIn note, you know, just let me know that you're considering this and you're seriously vested into it, and I can see what I can do to help you.
I hope DG Recruit is helping you understand the realities, challenges, and opportunities when it comes to headhunting and recruitment. Whether you're already a top biller or an aspiring headhunter, I'd love to get to know you. Sign up at donnaglobal.com to stay in touch on all aspects of career coaching and headhunting. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll see you there. Thanks for tuning in to DG Recruit. This has been a production of Donna Global.